This is episode number 3 of the Elliot Answers show. On today's show, we're talking about the pros and cons of thinning scissors, receding hairlines, wedding hair, hair fibres, and the difference between a taper and a fade. Thank you for watching the video today. If we're just meeting, my name is Elliot Fibres, and this channel is dedicated to hair, beard, and grooming tips for the modern man. So if that's something you might be interested in, you might want to consider subscribing. In previous episodes of the Elliot Answers show, what I've done is I've gone out onto the street, asked random guys what the problems that they're having with their hair is. But actually that was quite time consuming, going to talk to people and trying to find out what's going on, especially when you've got the internet now at such scale. So I decided it would make sense to go and find the questions online. Obviously now there's places like Quora where just questions are asked non-stop. There's then actually, I came across this other, I can't remember what it's called now, but actually it's basically you type in, I typed in men's hair, and it chucks out all the questions that are being asked onto Google, onto YouTube, onto Yahoo, I think, or wherever there's a search engine or search terms that people are asking. This then condenses them, puts them all into there. So what I'm going to do each week is pick 5 questions from there, or 5 topics that people are asking about, search terms, and I'm going to answer them. So question number 1, what are the pros and cons for using thinning scissors? Well, the pros for using thinning scissors, I guess, are that they're able to reduce a lot of weight from the hair. If you use the thinning scissors on thick, dense hair like myself, then well, the problem that I have is that it is really quite thick, and sometimes it is quite hard to style. If you were to use thinning scissors on it, I guess what it does then, it reduces a lot of the weight. It really thins the hair out, and you can run your hands through it a little bit easier. It gets rid of a lot of the bulk. Another positive of the thinning scissors, that if you've got a fade, and say for example, my head, it's quite bumpy, so then if you're not quite careful, you get quite a few shadows on my hair. If you use the thinning scissors on those areas, then you can take a little bit of the weight out of there, and it then makes the transition of the fade a lot smoother. Another pro is then when you've got the shortness through the sides and then leading up into the top, you can then blend that in a little bit easier in through there. It softens that whole appearance. In my opinion though, the cons outweigh the pros. There are ways of using them positively, but in my opinion, there's a lot more ways of using them negatively. So the problem, if you're blending up from the length of the sides into the top, what you'll do is some people then tend to thin that through there, and what you'll end up doing through the blend area is actually that it sits quite spiky and it's quite grubby. You get the hairs that then spike out a little bit more in through there. It doesn't quite sit really flush as if you were to blend it scissor over comb, or if you were to blend it with the clipper over comb. You end up with more of a flatter shape in through there. It's a much softer blend. It's much easier, I think. It's more of a con, not a con. It's more of a get out of jail card to blend that up through there. Another con is that actually through the top, if you're using the thinning scissors, it really does take a lot of weight out, and it's not necessarily that precise. When you're smashing that in through there and you're not picking the hair up, you can't necessarily see where it's heavier and where it's lighter. So when you're even when you're picking it up and then smashing it in through there, it ends up just taking it all out, because you're taking that whole scissor and going the whole way across it. Obviously, if you were to then pick that up and texturize it, if a barber's picking it up and then texturizing into the hair with the normal scissors, they can see in through their finger where the density is, whether it's heavier, whether it's thicker, and actually if it's thicker through this area, they can texturize this a little bit more and then not take anything off through there. If we're using thin scissors, you're just going to be taking that all off and reducing it to the same amount the whole way through there. What you then end up finding is actually you get so many shorter hairs in through there that actually it makes the head and the hair go a little bit poofy. It goes really quite wide and quite voluminous with it, really. I know, for example, when my hair has always had the thinning scissors on it, And because my hair is thick, people tend to overdo it. So what you find is actually you've got lots of long hairs coming in through here, but then nothing in through there. And you have then lots of shorter hairs the whole way through it. And then the shorter hair push the long hairs up, and it then sits all at different angles and doesn't really sit the way it's supposed to. It's not really elegant in through there. So there's if they're used correctly, they're a nice tool. If they're used incorrectly, they really do affect the hair. There's a lot of snobbery around them. I use them on quite a lot of different types of hair textures, but they have to be used correctly and in the way that they're supposed to be used. A lot of people just smash them through, and then it's a real negative effect on them, and that's where people really get worried, and then that's when they get upset, and you get clients coming in saying, oh no, please no thinning scissors on my hair. So that's a big problem with that, for sure. The search term number 2 that I found was men's hair for wedding day. Now this is quite an interesting subject. Obviously the longer I'm doing hair, the more clients you have in that are getting married. So it's really quite an interesting one. A lot of guys are never too sure what to have done for the wedding. A lot of them sort of, if they're having a skin fade, they're like, do I have a skin fade? Should I have it done the day before? Do I have it like a week before? What should I do? And then you've got guys thinking, oh, do I grow it out? Should I have it longer? Should I have it, or how should I have it? You have a lot of people that are just really questioning it. And rightly so, it's a massive deal for a lot of guys. What I think when you're getting married is those photos that you have are going to be there, hopefully, for a long time, 40, 50 years. So you want to look at those photos in 40 and 50 years and just look at the photo and think, wow, that was a great day. Look at, my wife looks beautiful, my husband looks beautiful, I look beautiful, we look great. What you don't want to be looking at is, fucking hell, what was I doing with that haircut? Where was that? You want it just to be timeless, something very simple that is just something that's going to last the ages. A lot of people going at the moment now in 2019, it's very much a phase to be having skin fades. Now, in my opinion, I think if we look at that in 20 years time and we look at the photos, you're going to look at that photo and be like, wow, that was short. That's like, you can see skin there. And I'm not necessarily sure that's really what you want to be doing. I think skin fades look great and they look fresh, and at the moment you feel great, you feel really clean with them. But I would lean towards leaving, if you were having a skin fade normally, I'd probably lean towards maybe having a one fade done the week before, so it sits a little softer, and then maybe having the neck hairs tidied up a couple of days before. I think you want it to look very elegant, very just nothing, just oh yeah, haircut, he's had a haircut. You don't want it to look anything. I think you just want to look the whole outfit just fit and melt into one. If you have something that really stands out now, then in 20 years or 30 years time, it's going to really, really stand out, which is, I don't think that's really what a lot of people want, because it's very trend driven. You want it to be something that just is timeless. And search term number 3 is, how do hair fibres work? Now, these are something that are gaining a lot of traction, even since I've moved down to London in the last 3 years now. These are becoming more and more popular. There's more clients that are using them in different ways. They're becoming more advanced. There's different colours that people are using. It's not just the generic one that people are finding online that's quite expensive. They're now in boots and in quite a few different areas. And what these are, it's a tub that you can get, where you can get them in boots. And what it does is, you say if you've got a fine area at the back, you can then get these, sprinkle this onto the back area or onto the front area, wherever it is that you're having trouble. You sprinkle that on, it grabs to the other hairs, also then can sit on the scalp, but sits and with a little bit of body, fills that hair out and makes it look a lot thicker and a lot darker. And it's given a lot of guys a lot more confidence. And it works just by grabbing onto the other hairs, thickening them up, giving them a darker appearance, and just making the hair look as though there is a lot more of it. It's obviously, if you get very close to it, you can see what's happening, but from a distance, and if you're not right on top of that person, they work great. So they're really a very good option for men that's going a little bit finer, a little bit on the weaker side. They really give a nice top up, and because now they're becoming so much more popular, there are so many different colours to go with each different hair colour as well. Now, search term number 4 is men's hair for a receding hairline. Now, this is a big problem that a lot of guys have when the receding hairline does start to come. It's a lot of guys get very paranoid about it. It's a big deal, and especially the type of guys that I would be cutting their hair. Obviously, if they're paying decent money for their hair, they care about it, so it is a big deal. It's something that does affect an awful lot of guys. And the first thing to go on a lot of guys is the hairline. This then sits really quite weak. It comes back through here, and it's sort of, if you push it up in through the front, what that does is it gives the illusion of this going higher, and then what it does is it makes this area look a lot more pronounced, because the distance between here and here, if that's going back, is grand, it's great. So what you really want to lean against is going too high with that, because that accentuates it. The haircuts you want to lean more towards are actually more of a crop, where it comes down at the front. You can still have this area still fairly long, fairly textured, but I would take the front really quite short, really quite strong in through there, just because then when the hairline does go a little bit further, well, when the hairline does start receding and going back, what you find is actually there's obviously less hairs in through there. Each individual hair is a little bit thinner as well. So if you're pulling this forward and then having this, and the front is still quite long, that can really look quite stringy if you're not careful. So what you want to do is actually cut that really short. You can even go way up to the hairline just to bring that as strong as possible, because then if all that comes forward and forward and forward, and you cut that to a line, then you've got that density coming in through there. The thing is, a lot of guys think, oh, if it's going receding, I need to grow it, and then I need to re-sweep it across, I need to keep all that length in through there. But actually that can look stringy, it can look as though you're really trying to cover it. If you take it short through there and keep the strength in through there, then it can sit still with a little bit of texture, but it's got a lot of weight through there, and you're not really having to sort of push it in a direction. You get rid of all those stringy hairs, and that makes a big difference with it for sure. But an option is, when you do have a receding hairline, is actually to go super short in through the sides. Because obviously if you've got all this area exposed through here, this looks really light. If you've then got quite a lot of hair in through the sides, then obviously you've got the darkness through the middle, you've got the lightness going back, and then you've got darkness through the sides as well. If you go super short in through the sides, then instantly this area looks darker because it's still got hair there. Obviously it's not got much, but it's still got some of it. So if you take that super short, it looks light, a little bit light, and then darker through there. So it's all about illusions and creating different types of illusions. So if you take the sides super short, that then makes the top and this area look fuller, as long as the haircut is then really short through the front. So that is also a very good option to team with if you've got the receding hairline as well. I would go all the way down to skin if you're in a job, or if you feel like it's appropriate for the look that you have. I would go all the way down to skin, blend that all up and make it a real nice high skin fade, which works well at the moment. Might not work well in 10 years or so, but actually at the moment I think that could work really well. So the next term is, what's the difference between a taper and a fade? Now this is a great question really, and it's quite a hard one to answer, and I can only answer it for what it means for myself. Because in the hair world, whether it's barber or hairdressing, so many people have different terms, and there's no one sort of central system as to what things are called, and a taper to someone might be a fade to someone else. So I'll explain to you what I feel the difference between a taper and a fade would be. Now, if I'm thinking of what a fade is, that would be basically you can choose the shortest level, and you can go all the way down to skin. You can do a 0 on the clippers, you can do a 0.5, you can do a 1, even a 1.5 or a 2, to be honest, depending on the density of the hair, can be the shortest point of whatever the fade is. And when you're doing that, basically what you would do is, when someone says, oh, I'd have a skin fade, or I'll have a 0.5 fade, basically what that does is, if someone says you want a 0.5 fade, you'll then put the baseline of a 0.5 fade in. So if say they want a 0.5, you would then put the 0.5 line going round the head, and then you would fade up from that. And now there's different guidelines for where that is. You could have it quite low, you could have that just over the ear, you could have it midway, you could have it really quite high. Now the difference between those is obviously if you have 0.5 quite low, then it's the fade is going to be really quite stretched out. You've got a chance of it it's easy to fit the 1, the 1.5, the 2 in through there. So that fade then looks really drawn out. If you were to put the 0.5, say, really quite high at the top, really what you're going to do is you're going to then do a 1 and a 1.5 over a very small area. So the fade is over a very small area. Now, they're not wrong or right, they're just different looks. It's all depending on what you want. That would be more, I would consider a fade. If I was to think of a taper, then what I would do with that would be more of in through the sideburn area and then in through the nape area. Now, as you can see with my hair, I've gone quite short in through here, and you can see there's a little bit of a mullet growing out through the back. So this is all quite a bit longer. So I would actually probably consider this more of a, I guess it's sort of in between a taper and a fade really, because it goes quite high up in through here with the 1.5, but you can see how it just sits really short through here. I'll put an example of what I think a taper would be. Basically, you can keep a lot more length in through this area and a lot more density in through there if you're tapering. You can go down to skin all the way through here and fade that out over a very small area and then blend that into the length, and then in through the nape you can taper that out. Obviously then other people will then class just tapering through the edges. Basically a taper or a fade is graduation. It's going from a shorter length to a longer length, and basically it's however big a space you want to do it over. So if you want to do a taper, you would be doing it over a small space in through here. If you wanted to do a fade, you could do it over a bigger area in through the whole of the sides. You can even do a fade in through the front, to be honest. I've tapered or faded the front out, however you want to call it. My hair, I used clippers on the front and then faded that into the length that I have through there. So that's really the difference between a taper and a fade. I'll show you, I'll put all the videos up, and so that's the difference between a taper and a fade. I'll put a few different examples up now that you can see between a fade and compare them side to side so you have a real idea of what the difference between the two is as well. Okay, so question of the day for the Elliot Answers show. What was the one key piece that you took away from this show you thought, actually, yeah, I quite like that, and that makes my life a little bit easier, a little bit clearer? If you have any questions at all, please feel free to send me a message. My social media channels are all on there, and they're all going to be linked down below. Twitter is the best one to send me a message. You can get on there and we can have a conversation really quite easily. If you wanted to book an appointment with myself, it's elliot-forbes.com. That's going to be linked there and down below. You can go onto my blog post, have a little read of everything, get a bit more of an idea about who I am myself. If you enjoyed this episode today, smash that subscribe button and then press that like button as well. Head on over to my channel now and go and have a watch of the Elliot Ash Show. These are chats with industry experts in the men's hair world, and they're giving you their insights as to how to improve your hair, beard and grooming. Thank you for watching. Much love, Elliot.